Section 1 of The Goodness of Saint Rocque and Other Stories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Goodness of Saint Rocque and Other Stories by Alice Dunbar Nelson. The Goodness of Saint Rocque. Manuela was tall and slender and graceful, and once you knew her, the lithe form could never be mistaken. She walked with the easy spring that comes from a perfectly arched foot. Today she swept swiftly down Marais Street, casting a quick glance here and there from under her heavy veil, as if she feared she was being followed. If you had peered under the veil, you would have seen that Manuela's dark eyes were swollen and discolored about the lids, as though they had known a sleepless, tearful night. There had been a picnic the day before, and as merry a crowd of giddy, chattering Creole girls and boys as ever you could see boarded the ramshackle dummy train that puffed its way wheezily out wide Elysian Fields Street, around the lily-covered bayous to Milnberg-on-the-Lake. Now a picnic at Milnberg is a thing to be remembered forever. One charters a rickety-looking, weather-beaten dancing pavilion built over the water, and after storing the children, for your true Creole never leaves the small folks at home, and the baskets and mothers downstairs, the young folks go upstairs and dance to the tune of the best band you ever heard, for what can equal the music of a violin, a guitar, a cornet, and a bass viol to trip the quadrille to at a picnic? Then one can fish in the lake and go bathing under the prim bathhouses so severely separated sexually, and go rowing on the lake in a trim boat, followed by the shrill warnings of anxious maman. And in the evening one comes home, hat-crowned with cool grey Spanish moss, hands burdened with fantastic latanier baskets woven by the brown bayou boys, hand in hand with your dearest one, tired but happy. At this particular picnic, however, there had been bitterness of spirit. Théophile was Manuela's own especial property, and Théophile had proven false. He had not danced a single waltz or quadrille with Manuela, but had deserted her for Clarelie, blonde and petite. It was Clarelie whom Théophile had rowed out on the lake. It was Clarelie whom Théophile had gallantly led to dinner. It was Clarelie's hat that he wreathed with Spanish moss, and Clarelie whom he escorted home after the jolly singing ride in town on the little dummy train. Not that Manuela lacked partners or admirers, dear no. She was too graceful and beautiful for that. There had been more than enough for her, but Manuela loved Théophile, you see, and no one could take his place. Still, she had tossed her head and let her silvery laughter ring out in the dance, as though she were the happiest of mortals, and had tripped home with Henri, leaning on his arm and looking up into his eyes as though she adored him. This morning she showed the traces of a sleepless night and an aching heart as she walked down Marais Street. Across wide Saint Rocque Avenue she hastened. 2 blocks to the river and 1 below, she repeated to herself breathlessly. Then she stood on the corner, gazing about her, until with a final summoning of a desperate courage she dived through a small wicket gate into a garden of weed-choked flowers. There was a hoarse, rusty little bell on the gate that gave querulous tongue as she pushed it open. The house that sat back in the yard was little and old and weather-beaten. Its one-story frame had once been painted, but there was a memory remote and traditional. A straggling morning-glory strove to conceal its time-ravaged face. The little walk of broken bits of brick was reddened carefully, and the one little step was scrupulously yellow-washed, which denoted that the occupants were cleanly as well as religious. Manuela's timid knock was answered by a harsh "Entrez." It was a small, sombre room within, with a bare yellow washed floor and ragged curtains at the little window. In a corner was a diminutive altar draped with threadbare lace. The red glow of the taper lighted a cheap print of Saint Joseph and a brazen crucifix. The human element in the room was furnished by a little wizened yellow woman, who, black-robed, turbaned, and stern, sat before an uncertain table whereon were greasy cards. Manuela paused, her eyes blinking at the semi-obscurity within. The wizened one called in croaking tones, "And for why you come here? Asseyez-la, mamselle." Timidly Manuela sat at the table facing the owner of the voice. "I want," she began faintly, but the mistress of the cards understood. She had had much experience. The cards were shuffled in her long, grimy talons and stacked before Manuela. "Now you cut them in 3 parts, so. 1, 2, 3, bien. You make you wish with all your heart, bien. Yes, I see, I see." Breathlessly did Manuela learn that her lover was true. But dat light gal, yes, she mek novena in Saint Rocque for he's love. "I give you one little charm, yes," said the wizened one, when the séance was over, and Manuela, all white and nervous, leaned back in the rickety chair. "I give you one little charm for to wean him back, yes. You wear hid round your waist, and he come back. Den you make prayer at Saint Roch and burn candle. Den you come back and tell me yes. 50 sous, mamselle. Merci. Good luck go wid you." Readjusting her veil, Manuela passed out the little wicket gate, treading on air. Again the sun shone, and the breath of the swamps came as healthful sea breeze unto her nostrils. She fairly flew in the direction of Saint Roch. There were quite a number of persons entering the white gates of the cemetery, for this was Friday, when all those who wish good luck pray to the saint, and wash their steps promptly at 12 o'clock with a wondrous mixture to guard the house. Manuela bought a candle from the keeper of the little lodge at the entrance, and pausing one instant by the great sundial to see if the heavens and the hour were propitious, glided into the tiny chapel, dim and stifling with heavy air from myriad wish candles blazing on the wide table before the altar rail. She said her prayer, and lighting her candle, placed it with the others. Mon Dieu, how brightly the sun seemed to shine now, she thought, pausing at the door on her way out. Her small finger-tips, still bedewed with holy water, rested caressingly on a gammon's head. The ivy which enfolds the quaint chapel never seemed so green. The shrines which serve as the way of the cross never seemed so artistic. The baby graves even seemed cheerful. Théophile called Sunday. Manuela's heart leaped. He had been spending his Sundays with Clarelei. His stay was short, and he was plainly bored. But Manuela knelt to thank the good Saint Roch that night, and fondled the charm about her slim waist. There came a box of bonbons during the week, with a decorative card, all roses and fringe, from Théophile. But being a Creole, and therefore superstitiously careful, and having been reared by a wise and experienced maman to mistrust the gifts of a recreant lover, Manuela quietly thrust bonbon, box, and card into the kitchen fire, and the Friday following placed the second candle of her novena in Saint Roch. Those of Manuela's friends who had watched with indignation Théophile gallantly leading Clarelei home from high mass on Sundays gasped with astonishment when the next Sunday, with his usual bow, the young man offered Manuela his arm as the worshippers filed out in step to the organ's march. Clarelei tossed her head as she crossed herself with holy water, and the pink in her cheeks was brighter than usual. Manuela smiled a bright good morning when she met Clarelei in Saint Roch the next Friday. The little blonde blushed furiously, and Manuela rushed post-haste to the wizened one to confer upon this new issue. "It is good," said the dame, shaking her turbaned head. "She is fraid she will work. May you charm, it will beat her." And Manuela departed with radiant eyes. Théophile was not at Mass Sunday morning, and murderous glances flashed from Clarelie to Manuela before the tinkling of the host bell. Nor did Théophile call at either house. Two hearts beat furiously at the sound of every passing footstep, and two minds wondered if the other were enjoying the beloved one's smiles. Two pair of eyes, however, blue and black, smiled on others, and their owners laughed and seemed none the less happy. For your Creole girls are proud, and would die rather than let the world see their sorrows. Monday evening Théophile, the missing, showed his rather sheepish countenance in Manuela's parlour, and explained that he, with some chosen spirits, had gone for a trip over the lake. "I did not ask you where you were yesterday," replied the girl saucily. Théophile shrugged his shoulders and changed the conversation. The next week there was a birthday fête in honour of Louise, Théophile's young sister. Every one was bidden, and no one thought of refusing, for Louise was young, and this would be her first party. So though the night was hot, the dancing went on as merrily as light young feet could make it go. Clarelie fluffed her dainty white skirts and cast mischievous sparkles in the direction of Théophile, who with the maman and Louise was bravely trying not to look self-conscious. Manuela, tall and calm and proud-looking, in a cool, pale yellow gown, was apparently enjoying herself without paying the slightest attention to her young host. "Have I the pleasure of this dance?" he asked her finally, in a lull of the music. She bowed assent, and as if moved by a common impulse, they strolled out of the dancing-room into the cool, quaint garden, where jessamines gave out an overpowering perfume, and a caged mockingbird complained melodiously to the full moon in the sky. It must have been an engrossing tete-a-tete, for the call to supper had sounded twice before they heard and hurried into the house. The march had formed with Louise radiantly leading on the arm of Papa. Clarelie tripped by with Léon. Of course nothing remained for Théophile and Manuela to do but to bring up the rear, for which they received much good-natured chaffing. But when the party reached the dining-room, Théophile proudly led his partner to the head of the table, at the right hand of Maman, and smiled benignly about at the delighted assemblage. Now you know, when a Creole young man places a girl at his mother's right hand at his own table, there is but one conclusion to be deduced therefrom. If you had asked Manuela after the wedding was over how it happened, she would have said nothing, but looked wise. If you had asked Clarelie, she would have laughed and said she always preferred Léon. If you had asked Théophile, he would have wondered that you thought he had ever meant more than to tease Manuela. If you had asked the wizened one, she would have offered you a charm. But Saint Rocque knows, for he is a good saint, and if you believe in him, and are true and good, and make your novenas with a clean heart, he will grant your wish. End of section 1.